am Charles Purcell, and this is the Daily Log for Tuesday, March 24th, 2020. A quick programming note to start here. Of course, the Log has been a weekly program available on all podcast platforms. We are now a daily program, and we are available on SoundCloud through the WXRW page. WXRW, of course, being 104.1 FM, River West Radio in Milwaukee. So the way I've decided to do this, we're going to do a daily show for the local audience. For everyone else, it is available, as I said, on SoundCloud or at riverwestradio.com. And then we'll continue to do the weekly show. Basically, it'll just be the Friday show. That one we will post nationally, so to speak. That's the one that will post on our host site, Libsyn, which then shoots it out to Apple Podcasts and iHeartRadio and YouTube and all the other, any platform you like, you'll find us. This particular Tuesday program, I will post on the national sites. So wherever you're hearing me right now, make that note. The weekly show will continue nationally. The daily show will continue locally. But anyone around the world can hear them on the sites I mentioned. All right. So that's what's going on over here. Well, today is a day I think we can circle on our calendars. A day we should never forget, always remember, because last night, the Orange Menace from the White House podium declared his intentions. He is now unquestionably the poster boy, the face, the high leader, the Führer of an evil ideology. There's no longer a question. It has been laid bare that the ideology of profit and consumerism is the greatest existential threat we face as a nation and as a world. When he got up there and he spewed his evil nonsense about the cure being worse than the disease, when the choice between profit and lives is clearly laid out for all of us to see, he's made his choice. If people die, well, people die. That's just the cost of business. Of course, it's always been the case. Some of us have been trying to scream that from the rooftops for years, for decades, that the evil ideology of profit and consumerism has been literally killing people by the thousands, by the millions, for years. Because it leaves people behind. It leaves so many suffering people behind. Every day, people who can't get proper nutrition, proper safe housing, adequate health care. It's always been the case. But now we see it exponentiated. We're seeing it clearly under the microscope, like that disturbingly beautiful picture of the coronavirus that we keep seeing. And right on the heels of last night's shocking, almost unfathomable statements by the Orange Menace, his soldiers on the front line had his back. Returning to consumerism, returning to profit at any cost should be our main priority now, is what they say. That mind-boggling statement from, I think it was the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, who said that seniors, he is sure, would be willing to sacrifice their lives so that their children and grandchildren can continue to buy things. The evil ideology of profit and consumerism is their priority. My own Senator, Ron Johnson, said as much just a couple of days ago when he said, if 1 or 2% of the population die, that's just the price we pay. Perfectly acceptable. Some critics pointed out, well, maybe he didn't do the math. Maybe he doesn't realize that's 1 million, 2 million, 3 million people. No, he did the math. He knows. As I speak, it's 9:30 a.m. Central Time on Tuesday, March 24th. By the time you hear my voice, no doubt new developments have come to be known. As I speak, Congress seems to be nowhere near a funding bill to fight this virus. I won't go through all of that. It's all over the news. You're ahead of me on the curve. As I said, by the time you hear this, you already know more than I do on that, so I won't get into that. But once again, this insane, illogical, religious obsession with money prevents Congress from doing what so obviously needs to be done. Right out of the gate, and they're already 2 or 3 weeks behind the curve on this. They should have done this long ago. They should have stripped the bill of everything except emergency funds to hospitals that are on the front line. Get the health care facilities and the health care workers everything they need now, today, yesterday, a week ago. Do it. Strip everything else from the conversation. There's absolutely no excuse for that. But as I speak, they continue to fight because the adherents to the evil ideology of profit and consumerism insist that they pour hundreds of billions of dollars into the pockets of companies large and small, because those companies are the wheels, they're the gears that keep this evil system going. Prioritizing people, much less important, not important at all, actually, from their point of view, because as this nitwit from Texas said, and Ron Johnson has said, and the Orange Menace has said, people are going to die. That's just the way it is. That's the price we pay. That's fine. It's an acceptable price if 1 million people die. It's perfectly all right to lose 1 million consumers or 2 million consumers. The others will just have to pick up the slack, and they will. I've got an idea for them. I've got an idea for Congress. How does this sound? Just going to toss this out there. A temporary moratorium on money itself. If you need groceries, if you need to eat, and I think most of us need to eat occasionally, but we don't have any money, well, then we just simply go to the grocery store and we take what we need without paying. You still go through the checkout. The grocer still rings up your tab, but instead of getting the money from you, they just submit their losses when it's all said and done to the U.S. Treasury, and they pay the bill. Now, if you think that sounds radical, it's no more radical than sending each of us $1,000 and then spending that money at the grocery store. How is it any different? So if I had any voice in this at all, I would be proposing a national shutdown, which is now, I think, in over half the states. A national shutdown, absolutely essential services only, and those essential businesses that remain open, just put us all on the tab. And when it comes time to collect, instead of collecting from us, you collect from the U.S. Treasury. You can't hoard. You can't go out and buy a boat with this system. No, you can only get your essentials. And you can take this beyond the individual level. If a factory needs more fabric, to sew their face masks? Well, they go through the regular supply chain. They talk to their vendors. They get the fabric they need. No money is exchanged. Everybody keeps their books, but no money is exchanged. It's all on the tab. And if we do this, if we lock down for the duration, for as long as it takes, no timeline, if we absolutely lock down, everybody stays home, essential consumption only. I'm not going to call it consumerism, because consumerism is an ideology, like communism or fascism or authoritarianism. Consumerism. That's an evil ideology. But we have to eat. We have to heat our homes. And the doctors and nurses and health professionals on the front line need equipment. They need supplies. They need their protective gear. They need to run the hospitals and keep the lights on and keep the electricity going and all of it. So activity needs to continue. There's nothing wrong with activity itself. It's the ideology of consumption and profit that's the problem. And most of us have been convinced. Most of us have been convinced up until now that if you're not an advocate, if you're not fully in on the ideology of consumerism, you're not living. You can't live unless you're buying something. And I'm not talking about life as in life-sustaining goods, food, health. I'm talking about everyday life, the way it was a few weeks ago when the world was a whole different place. They had us convinced that nothing was worth doing unless you paid for it. You weren't living. For God's sakes, you couldn't even see a friend without meeting them at the coffee shop and dropping a few bucks on some lattes. That's just standard practice. There wasn't one activity in this world where you weren't expected to grease the wheels of consumption and profit. The library. That's the one exception. God bless libraries. But that was the world of 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that world is gone. And now, out of necessity, we've discovered that having a little video chat with your loved ones can be quite satisfying. Pulling out some old board games or puzzles from the closet shelf and spending some time with your family, social distance, of course. We're doing all these things that cost zero money. They're out of the world of consumerism, and this is what drives the evil adherents of consumerism mad. We're not greasing their wheels. We're not greasing the gears. Over the years, occasionally, you've probably seen in your social feed free online courses. Oh, such and such university is offering their online courses for free. Oh, well, that's wonderful. Or you might see books you could download, or music, or paintings from a particular museum or something. That would pop up occasionally. Well, now there's a flood. There's a torrent of that. It's all over my social feed now. I'm seeing these kind of posts. Well, it makes me think, why couldn't we have always done that? Why can't we, in the world ahead, see, we're in this limbo right now. There was a world we knew, and then there's a world coming. And we're in between, and we know we can maybe see that past world a little more clearly. But let's try to see the coming world a little more clearly as well. Why not in the coming world Every single university class in this country, in the world, is online and free for everyone. There's nothing stopping that. Nothing, that is, except for the two-headed beast of consumerism and profit. What else are we discovering in this very odd time we're in? Well, we're discovering that in short order here, Congress is probably going to have to give in to the idea of remote voting. Of course, they could have always done it. It was just a decision. Now it may become a necessity as more and more lawmakers are stricken by this virus. So in the world ahead, maybe lawmakers spend the great bulk of their time in their own states and in their own districts. And they only meet very occasionally together in D.C. To me, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Stay close to your constituents. Stay out of the Washington bubble. Meet occasionally in person, but the bulk of your work is done with and for your constituents. And you meet your congressional colleagues online. Why not? I have many, many musician friends and musicians that I follow in my social media. And they're all doing free concerts. And not only the local musicians, but many, many national acts. Neil Young, Paul Simon are the two that come to mind. I'm sure there have been others. Willie Nelson. Free concerts for all of us to see online. Now, of course, it's not the same as going in person. But the point, again, is, well, this could have been happening the whole time. We're only learning now that it's possible to do something for free. I can watch an entire concert with Willie Nelson and family and Paul Simon and the rest and pay nothing for it. Yes, because we're in this weird time. And out of the goodness of their hearts, they just feel they want to do it. And sure, they might put out their little Venmo tip bucket. That's fine. But nobody's doing this. Nobody's making any money off of this. Nobody's getting rich from this. But example after example show us that it's quite possible. In fact, it's very simple to conduct your activities outside of the ideology of consumerism and profit. We're showing this every day during this shutdown. And again, it's driving the Fuhrer and his henchmen crazy. We have to reopen for business, they say. Hundreds and thousands, up to 1 million or more, lives lost. Oh, that's just the price we pay. And of course, when Agent Orange was asked by the reporters if his advisors on the scientific side, on the healthcare medicine side, were in on this new approach he's presenting tonight, putting the economy over lives. Well, he did what he always does. He kind of shimmy-shammied and flim-flammed a little bit. And he did actually often he'll say something honest accidentally because he's just too stupid to keep things straight. And because he's just so arrogant that he can just boast about the most ridiculous things. So in that sense, he can be honest, right? We've learned this about him. And he did say, oh, no, if it was up to the scientists, if it were up to the medical experts, that we'd be shut down for years, using his usual hyperbole. No, but yeah, a couple months, 2-3 months, sure, obviously. We've all noticed, and there's been much talk about the fact that Dr. Fauci, who's become kind of a national celebrity, was not at the podium for the last couple of pressers. Well, of course not. I'm sure you know about this. First, there was the little video clip that went viral of him holding his face in his hand in total frustration as Agent Orange said something particularly heinous and stupid and ignorant. And then his interview, Dr. Fauci's interview, talking about the problems he's having trying to teach and convince the president about the issue. And so, yeah, those two things combined, that little viral video and the interview with Fauci in the National Magazine. And suddenly now we haven't seen him, and we probably won't see him again. Because he understands, as everyone now understands, except for those blinded by ideology, everyone understands the need to prioritize life over profits. But in a stunning turn, I'm shocked almost on a daily basis at my own naivete, at my own stupidity. How could I not anticipate this new low? I keep thinking they can't get any lower, and they keep going lower. And now 1 million or 2 or 3 lives is acceptable. And whose lives? Whose lives? Well, primarily the dispensable among us, the elderly, the sick. They weren't spending very much money anyway. They're not our target demographic. Children in ICE detention camps. We're not profiting from them except for the, well, I guess we are. Our detention camps make a nice, tidy little profit. But if half of them die, that won't be a big hit for us. The elderly trapped in nursing homes. Prisoners trapped in prisons, which I'm happy to say there have been a lot of releases. Governors are doing that. I'm happy to report that. Buying and selling is not the meaning of life. I don't know what the meaning of life is. I'm not going to pretend I know and preach to you. But I know for certain that it is not buying and selling. But the proponents of profit and consumerism have revealed themselves as the single most evil force on earth. I'm not comparing them to Hitler. Hitler had his own little game going. This is a new game. Of course, they share the white supremacy. And you can also toss in a little patriarchal hierarchy. Those are some very definite components to this machine they've built. At last night's presser, Agent Orange bleated some of his nonsense that you'd expect to hear from the drunk guy at the end of the bar, which he is wont to do, about how, well, automobile accidents cause thousands and thousands of deaths. We don't shut down the economy. People die from cancer. We don't shut down the economy. People die from the regular flu every year. Thousands of people die. We don't shut down the economy. Well, that's kind of my point. You're making my point. Yes, we should shut down the economy permanently. Forever. Shut down the economy. I'm not saying shut down life. I'm not saying shut down the consumption of essential needs. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have art and music and science and the products that we need and the food that we need and the health care and the housing that we need. No, we don't shut any of that down. But the idea that we need this imaginary thing called the economy, wherein the evil twins of profit and consumerism call the dance, make the rules, is the only acceptable system. No, it is an unacceptable system. The drunk at the end of the bar said that if we lose our way of life, if we lose the economy as he defines it, well, then people will lose jobs and they'll become depressed and they'll commit suicide. This was his argument. This is the drunk at the end of the bar. And worse than the drunk at the end of your local bar, imagine putting him in charge of the most powerful country on earth. If the drunk at the end of your local bar is standing at the White House podium, that's what we've got. And by the way it looks, he has stripped himself of any reasonable advice from the scientific and medical communities, and he is relying solely on the goofiest, on the most heinous and immoral talking heads on Fox News. So make no mistake, in the hours, in the days to come, this is the new talking point from the regime and its followers. Profit and consumption are more important than lives. They're going to try to convince you that without the current system of money, profit, consumerism, that life itself is impossible. They will do everything in their power to convince you of this. It's not true. The evil twins of profit and consumerism have been evil since their inception. And most all of us have either been trapped by the system or we've acquiesced to the system. A few of us have a very nice life provided by that system. But it's always been evil. And last night, standing at the podium in the White House press room, the Orange Menace said right out loud what has always been true. In this system, profit and consumerism is far more important than human life. This is the Daily Log. I'm Charles Brisson.